rapidinho os nossos próximos dois convidados, o Mick e a Jeanne. Vamos falar um pouco sobre a EAG. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Great. How about you?
Great. So if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce both of you in Portuguese for a minute. Ok, so a EAG hoje vai trazer dicas sobre como pesquisar e selecionar universidades nos Estados Unidos. O tema que eles trouxeram foi pensando no problema de tantas universidades para escolher, pode ser opressor começar a pesquisar suas opções. E essa sessão vai fornecer algumas dicas sobre as principais considerações que todo estudante com destino à faculdade deve procurar. Bem como você pode organizar sua pesquisa para que possa tomar uma decisão informada. Não perca essa oportunidade de tirar o estresse de pesquisar a faculdade perfeita. So, I just introduced a bit of what you're going to say. If you could tell a bit about yourself in EAG.
Jeanne, you want to start?
Yep, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Luca. My name is Jeanne, and I am from EAG U.S. University Group. We are an organization that represents colleges in the United States for the recruitment of international students. So the colleges that we represent are looking for international students, especially from Brazil. So we're happy to be on with this group today from Brazil. And today Mick and I actually help students through the application process. So we help students learn about the colleges, figure out which program they might want to be in, apply to the universities. Once you're admitted, get you through the process of getting your student visa. So we have a great session ahead of you. I'll let Mick introduce himself before we move on to the next slide.
Thanks, Jeanne. And hey, everybody. So my name is Mick, and as Jeanne was mentioning, I work for EAG. We work with a group of universities in the U.S., and I specifically work with a lot of students from Central America and South America. So I do work with a lot of students from Brazil, and have done so for the last 3 or 4 years. And so we recruit a lot of students from Brazil. We have great options for you, and we're really excited to talk about those a bit more in the booth. For this presentation specifically, we know there are a lot of options. There are thousands of options of universities in the U.S., so it can be daunting and difficult to know where to start. So we're hoping we can help you start that search so you can narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I will say I've been on the booth chat all day long, and there are so many students coming in, so we appreciate you coming in. So many students are starting out in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, so it's wonderful to see how early the students are starting. And it is, as Mick had said, it can seem overwhelming, but hopefully we're going to offer you some tips on how to make it a little less stressful. So I'm going to start out. There's lots of things that you can look at for schools when you come to the United States. We're going to focus specifically on colleges in the United States. So there's a lot of different things that you can look at. One of the things is location and campus. And I'm going to let Mick talk a little bit about this aspect.
Yeah, so when you're looking at universities in the U.S., keep in mind the U.S. is a really, really large country. And that we have a wide range of temperatures, climates, cities, small towns, very similar to Brazil. Brazil's the same way. And so one thing you're going to want to look at is geographically, where would you like to be in the U.S.? Because if you say, hey, there are 5,000 universities, and you look at this map, you're not going to know where to start. But if you say, you know what, I hate cold weather, I never want to see snow, then you probably want to cut off this part of the country and just look in the south, like Nova Southeastern University, which is one of our universities, is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, all the way down here. You're going to have warm weather all year round. It's almost tropical. You also might look and say, I love living in cities. Cities offer so much. Again, NSU would be a great fit. It's right in Miami. But on the other hand, you might say, I live in a city. I never want to see traffic again. I want to go to a small town, and look at a school like Concord University here in West Virginia, which is in a really small town. So, that's one way you can narrow down that search. Figure out what kind of weather you like. Do you like being in a city? Do you like being in a small town? Look at those different options. You're also going to want to look at the campus as well and what the campus is like. Because, again, looking at so many universities in the U.S., you have universities that are very small, that have under 1,000 students. You can walk across campus in a few minutes. the culture is going to be very friendly and familiar. You're going to recognize almost everyone. On the other hand, you might have a university with 30,000 students, which is like a city in itself. You might need to take a bus to get to your classes in time. You're not going to know all the other students. So there is this really wide range of what the campuses themselves are like, what the campus cultures are like. So these are things, as you're looking, you might want to think about. Where's the campus located? What's the weather like? Is it a big town or a small town? Is the campus really big? You might not like big classes. You might like a smaller class. In that case, you might want to look at a smaller university. I don't know if you had anything to add about that, Jeanne?
I think the camp where you're going to live for the next 4 years of your education is probably important. So as you mentioned, weather, climate, things like that. If you're a person that likes to go out at night and explore and go to museums, or if you like to hang out in cafes with your friends or what have you, there's so much to do on campus. That is one of the big aspects that we'll talk about, is what there is to do on campus. But yes, again, the surrounding area is very important. We also represent a college in New York City called Manhattan College, which actually isn't in the city. It's actually located in the suburbs with apartment buildings, and there's trees around. It's a very contained campus, but you can get on the subway train and be in downtown Manhattan in 30 minutes. So there's there's great opportunities for you in the city, not only for social and leisure, but also work opportunities when those come up. Some of the things that we also talk about with a college campus is whether or not you're going to hear in the United States whether something is public or private. So what's the difference in that? Public and private. Public university means that the state that it's located in runs the college. So it is part of a state system, like University of Nebraska at Kearney. That's out in Nebraska. It's part of the big University of Nebraska system. We represent one of the campuses. That is a public university. Just for your knowledge, public universities are similar in price to maybe a community college. Some public universities have a lower price because they're run by the state, while private universities have a larger, maybe a higher price on the tuition. I think my smoke alarm's going off, Mick, so I'm going to mute myself for a second.
Okay, I was wondering what that was. So, and one other thing I would like to mention about the location and campus and things like that is also don't become too fixated on it. I know sometimes students will say, I don't want to see snow or something like that. Or I only want to live in a city. But, this is a point in your life that's going to be a major change and you're really going to grow. So it also benefits you maybe to consider options that would expand your horizons and be something you might not consider, because this will be a period when you're growing and you might find that something you never thought you would like, you'll love. That was my case. I picked a university that was 9 hours away from my home. My parents took me to visit. I didn't want to go. I said, I will never visit this. I will never go to this university. There's no point in visiting. The minute I set foot on campus, that's where I went, and I loved every minute of it. So be open as well. So I think that's all I have, Jeanne, for location and campus. If you want to move over, I don't know whenever you can unmute.
It is, yeah, the alarm just went off. Thank goodness. So the little things that happen in virtual worlds. So the other thing that you may want to consider as you're looking at colleges, obviously, is your major. Does your college offer your major? Well, yes. If you're looking at colleges, you want to select a college with your major. But there's more to that. Something like looking at just the types of classes that you're going to take. Believe it or not, every university in America could offer biology, and they could offer different types of classes within that. So you really want to take a close look at the curriculum and say, what type of classes am I going to take? Do I have the ability to maybe tailor that to what specific career? If you want to do a pre-med track, you want to be a doctor, you want to go into something in the medical field, or you may even want to go into research, something like that. You definitely want to take a look at what types of classes you will take. There's also Bachelor of Arts degree versus a Bachelor of Science degree. Many colleges offer maybe a Bachelor of Arts versus a Bachelor of Science because those dovetail into different careers. So you even want to take a look at the type of degree you're going to get. Many students ask about even what a bachelor's degree is or what an undergraduate student is. Sometimes the American language is a little bit hard to understand with that. Basically, when we talk about undergraduate or bachelor's degrees, those are the degrees that you're going to take most likely for 4 years of school after you finish your high school. So when you enter college, you're coming in at the undergraduate level, and you'll continue on for 4 years for a bachelor's degree. Then you may decide you need further schooling. So you might go into graduate school. So a graduate degree is also called a master's degree. So some students, if you're going into med school or if you're going into law, you're going into certain fields, you have to take additional studies after your undergraduate studies, and that's your graduate studies. But some of the things that you can do with your major, if you want to, again, take a biology degree to go into medical school, you can actually tailor that. There's elective classes that you can take, which you can fill. So maybe you want to do something with, I've met a lot of students who want to be heart surgeons, or they want to go into specific parts of the medical field. Maybe research is another part. You can tailor your degree with that. The other thing is work experience. So when you have a major, you may want to get some work experience, do some practical training in the United States. You can do that at certain schools after your degree program is over. Again, using that medical degree, if you can work at a local hospital and get some experience there before returning home, that's also an option for you. So many international students are very interested in this and want to make sure that they can actually learn academically, but then there's opportunities within their major to get some practical training. And as Mick had mentioned, how many students are in your average class? There are colleges and universities that have large lecture halls. Maybe that's not your style of learning. You may want to get something along the lines of a smaller classroom. And then who's teaching your classes? Many of the larger universities may have graduate assistants teaching classes. Some colleges really do focus on faculty teaching those classes and making sure that you're learning from somebody, especially who's been in industry. The other part of it is how long are the classes? You will have opportunities to take classes on different days, and there'll be different schedules for you. So some students, when they're looking at colleges within their major, they want to know, how can I get through my classes? How can I tailor them to what I need? What do I have to take, and how do I have to pass it? So you definitely, to take the stress out of looking at a school, don't just look at your major, but look at all the things that come along with that. Mick, I'm not sure if there's anything else that you'd like to add with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you mentioned, Jeanne, that they should look at the majors and the classes that they'll be taking, I know oftentimes students say, well, how can I find that information? Honestly, it's incredibly easy at pretty much every university. You would just go to the university website. So if you were interested in Nova Southeastern, for example, you would go to nova.edu, search for your major, and you can go on the university websites, find your major. You can see what classes you'd have to take to graduate. You can look at the professors. You can see who the professors are, and oftentimes it'll show what their interests are. So, Jeanne had mentioned to me the other day that not every biology major, as an example, at every university is going to be the same. Different universities might have different specializations, and you can usually find that on the website. You can see what the graduates go on to do for their careers. So all that information is available on the university websites, and you really should take advantage of that. And the other thing I did want to mention about majors as well is, some of you may be familiar with this, the U.S. system is a bit different. And I know there's a lot of pressure to know what major you want before you apply, but you can actually attend U.S. universities as what's called undecided. So if you're not quite sure what major you want to study yet, that's okay. You don't have to stress about it. You can apply to university as undecided. That just means I don't know what I want to do yet. And then for 1 to maybe 3 semesters, you'll take different classes. Jeanne had just mentioned electives, which are classes that aren't necessarily related to your major, but you do have to take to graduate. So you can take these different classes and try different things for a couple semesters, see what you really like, and then choose your major. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And you can also change your major once you're at the university. If you start as a biology major and you get there after a semester, you think, I hate biology, you can change and do math. You can make that change, and it's not going to cost you anything extra. And for most students, they're still going to graduate on time, as long as you don't do it in your 3rd or 4th year, decide I want to change. Then you might have to stick around a little longer. But that's something else to keep in mind when you're looking at majors as well.
Yeah, and I just had a question in the chat earlier. I meant to mention is majors and minors. So, students sometimes often don't understand that either. Many universities offer you the opportunity to major in a certain program. So you may major in business administration. So that's what your primary degree is going to be in. But you can minor in something like sports management. So you will have elective classes within your curriculum, your program, and those elective classes are your choice to fill. You can fill those with a marketing major, an accounting major. So you'll have a business administration degree, but then your minor is your specific area that you're focusing in on, which is also a great thing because many students in the chat today were asking so many good questions. So I wanted to try and put them in the presentation as well. So what else should you consider when you're looking at a college in the U.S. to take the stress out of life when you're looking at things? Let's talk about life outside of the classroom. Besides classes, because that's kind of what you have to do. What would you like to do when you're outside of class? And Mick, I'll let you kind of take the reins on this one and talk about this.
So I get to talk about the fun stuff outside of classroom. So the great thing about studying in the U.S. is that most students are going to be living on the campus. And what that means is the university experience in the U.S. is not just about your classes, which are, of course, very important. It's the most important thing. But it's also going to be about what you do outside the classes. Universities in the U.S. have tons of ways to get involved, and a lot of those are really fun. A lot of those might tie into your major. They could be sports. And these activities are really, really important to you for two reasons. One, as Jeanne said, they're great ways to de-stress. They're great ways to have fun. But all these activities outside the classroom are great ways to network. And that's one of the valuable aspects of your education. It's not just the degree, but it's the social network that you're going to build. Some of you may have heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this is going to be a place where you can start meeting people that will help you throughout your career, whether those are professors or fellow students that you rely on. So once you get to a university in the U.S., whichever one you choose, you're definitely going to get involved in these activities. But you also, as you're sitting here now in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you want to start thinking about what activities do you really like and would you like to get involved in, and make sure the universities that you're looking at has those options. For my particular case, I played baseball. Baseball was really important to me. So as I did my college search, I looked for universities that had baseball, number one, and that I could get recruited to play baseball at. So that was very important. So for some of you, that might be sports. I know Brazil is famous for soccer. Some of you might be great soccer players, and that might be really important to you. So you're going to want to look at universities that have soccer, that have good soccer programs. Others of you might have a certain hobby. I'm sure a lot of you are gamers, and a lot of universities are going to have esports teams. Like Concord University in West Virginia has an esports team that's run just like an athletics team. Pretty much every university anymore is going to have a gamer club that you can get involved in. There are activities that can tie into your majors, like a volunteer opportunity or things like that, where you go out and volunteer in your field, and that will help you meet people in that field as well. So there are all these different things going on. There are fun festivals and homecoming and different kind of parties that go on throughout the week. And then there are simple things too, like a hot chocolate night, and you go and make your own hot chocolate, or they bring dogs to campus to help you de-stress during finals. So there's always something going on. These are chances for you to de-stress, but to also make friends. And you're really going to want to kind of think about, hey, outside of academics, what are my hobbies that I really, really like? Some of you might be surfers and you want to surf. And so you're probably going to want to pick a school like University of Bridgeport in Connecticut that's right on the coast, Nova Southeastern University that's right on the coast. So these are things you're going to want to look at as well.
Yeah, and I think it's, for students, it's also an opportunity to explore something they've never done. So they may have been involved in certain clubs and organizations, but when you go out to college, you're going to find that there are so many opportunities, clubs and organizations you've never heard of. There's even academic clubs and organizations where students can compete nationally. If they're in like an accounting club and they might compete in accounting things, that's great. And then also Manhattan University, I just did another webinar this past year about their social commitment to their community, and their students are very involved. It's a Catholic university that gives back to the community, and the students go out and volunteer, whether it's at the holidays, helping in soup kitchens, whether it's rehabbing homes. Some of you may be looking for opportunities to better the community and do things in the surrounding area. And even if you didn't have that thought in mind and you see these clubs and organizations out there in the community, it may be something that inspires you to do good for others. In this world after the pandemic, everybody is about being kind to one another and doing things for others. I think we've learned a lot, and it's a great opportunity when you're in college to explore these opportunities. One of the other areas that we suggest that maybe you look at, again, we mentioned, where are you going to live for the next 4 years? Colleges and universities offer a full scale of different rooms that you can live in. There's anything from a traditional double room with shared bathrooms at the end of the hallway, to suites, to singles, to apartment style living. When you're looking at the website for your university, you're definitely going to want to look at what type of living accommodations. How do I set up my room? Do I have to have a roommate? What kind of roommate am I going to get? How do I get to choose my roommate? I'm coming from somewhere that's foreign to this university. Am I going to get to live with somebody that's similar to me? Most universities now have like a pairing system. So you go online and you fill out a survey about yourself. Maybe you're a night owl, so you stay up at night. Maybe you study a lot. Maybe you like it quiet. Maybe you like to do outdoorsy things. You can answer all different questions about yourself, and then they have a software program that will match you and make sure that you're paired up with a roommate that's like yourself. You could say, I want to live with somebody from the USA. I want to practice my English with them and do things such as that. So those are different options for you as well. Maybe, you have certain dietary restrictions that you can't eat certain foods or things like that. Most colleges and universities these days, you don't have to get nervous about stressing out about what kind of food you're going to have. Maybe you have to have a gluten-free diet. Most colleges and universities are very accommodating to students with their meal plans and things like that, so that you can not have to worry about that, not have to stress about that. And even on-campus versus off-campus living, as Mick had mentioned, on-campus living, there's a lot of benefits to living on campus. Most of the colleges that we represent have free Wi-Fi. They've got laundry that you can just kind of, some of our campuses even have the laundry right on your phone. Like, it tells you when your washer is done. Technology is just moving at the speed of sound, practically. So a lot of students, may want to live on campus. Some students want to live off campus and get a roommate and live in an apartment. So what are those opportunities? Do you have to live on campus? Many students will be surprised to find out that it's not an option at some colleges. Many colleges may require you to live on campus for the first or second years. And then as you get to be an upperclassman and more responsible, you can then live off campus. So, those are the types of things as you're looking at your options for living there. Where do you live? How close are your dormitories to campus? What are the amenities that they offer in many of these dorm rooms? Mick, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
Great. I think you nailed it.
Okay, great. And last but not least, turn this over. The application process. And Mick, before I forget, I don't want to forget the ESL programs, and maybe we can talk about that in this slide as you're going to talk about that, about ESL opportunities and what does that mean? How do students, do they have to be proficient to come in as part of the process? And maybe we can talk about that here.
Okay, great. So yeah, the last aspect that we're going to talk about is the application process, scholarships and things like that. So when you're looking at the different universities in the U.S., if there's 5,000 universities, there's going to be 5,000 different application processes. Most of them are going to be very, very similar, but each one is going to have its own little requirements. And so it is important for you to have a peek at the requirements as you're looking at the application process, just to make sure that you can comply with all those requirements. Some of you might not want to take the SAT. There are universities, I'm sure you're going to be happy to learn, that don't require the SAT. So if you say, hey, I hate standardized tests, I'm not going to take an SAT, you can come to Nova Southeastern University without the SAT. That's fine. There are options for you. You might say, I talk to students that hate essays or they don't want to do interviews. These are things that you're going to want to look at in the application process and make sure that, hey, whatever universities I'm interested in, what is that application process going to be? And I think for most universities in the U.S., being that you're from Brazil, they probably will have some English proficiency requirement, which is usually going to be something like TOEFL, IELTS, or these days Duolingo is the easiest. But many universities as well, kind of as Jeanne was mentioning, for students who don't necessarily meet that ESL requirement or the English requirement. So maybe if NSU has a Duolingo score of 105 and you have a 85 on it, there might be options for you to take English classes for a semester to get your level up to the university level. I don't know if you want to add anything about that, Jeanne.
No, I think that basically students may ask, am I going to be able to take college classes? Am I going to understand the classes? Many students do understand they will have to know English, but that colleges do offer English programs prior to studying. So many schools will offer an ESL program where you learn the English there first, and then they'll give you a conditional acceptance into your program. So you may study for a semester or two in an English class, but you'll be on campus doing it, and then you will move right into your degree program. So I think that's the only thing I wanted to mention is how that works.
And last thing I'll mention, I know we have questions coming up, Jeanne, so real quick, I just wanted to touch on scholarships and costs. That's obviously going to be a major factor as well. So you definitely want to know how much of the universities cost, but you don't want to just focus on the tuition price because, as you're all aware, there are a lot of scholarships in the U.S. Every university is going to have scholarships different. Most are going to, when you apply for admission, you're also going to be applying for scholarships automatically. And typically those will be based off of your grades in high school, your English level, if they require an SAT. Other universities might have a separate application process for scholarships or an interview or something like that. Universities in the U.S. will often have campus employment. So if you are an international student, you can typically work up to 20 hours per week to get a little bit of extra money. It's not going to be a lot, but some spending money for books and things like that. So that's an important factor as well. You're going to want to know your budget for university and look at the tuition price at universities, but also how much scholarship you can get.
Yep. So we do thank you for this. Hopefully these are some of the considerations that you can take when you're looking at colleges in the U.S. to take some stress out. Always talk to college reps. They're willing to talk to you and help you. Don't be afraid to chat with reps like myself and Mick. Hopefully we're friendly enough that you can feel free to chat with them. Luca, we're all set for the questions.
Awesome. That was great. You guys covered it all, I think.
Thank you.
And I think the students agree. For example, Moacir said the presentation was awesome. It was an excellent presentation with very clarifying information.
Good.
Thanks.
And we also have a question. Julio, he's part of our Franklin Virtual High School. So he by doing that, he'll graduate with a Brazilian and in a U.S. diploma. And he wanted to ask you guys if you guys think that's differential. How do you guys evaluate that?
I think the main benefit, if you have a U.S. diploma, is for many universities, you probably won't be required to take an English proficiency exam. Every university is different. Every university will view it differently. But I think just offhand, it sounds like that would be one of the benefits. If it's the classes are in English and it's an American diploma, that should be enough to get you admitted. You probably won't have to take TOEFL or Duolingo.
Okay, perfect. I think we can wrap it up. You guys have anything more else to say?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it. We hope the students come back for the fair tomorrow. It's been a wonderful fair, and we hope that the students ask their questions in the booth. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luca.
See you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.